Hey there, and welcome to the Business of Business podcast.
J Faith Hair Studio, centrally located in southern New Jersey. J Faith Hair Studio is the place to go to become the best version of yourself. Confidence in your appearance is always important, and a great hairstyle is an absolute necessity. Visit jfaithhairstudio.com to book your appointment today.
Here we are two daughters and their dad, seeking to inspire and educate you to follow your dreams of being in business by teaching you the business of being in business. The good, the bad, the humor are all parts of our unique perspective as an entrepreneurial family. Thanks for joining us. So grab a coffee, turn up the volume. Here we go. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Business of Business podcast. I am your host, Stacey J. Dempsey, and I am here with the two daughters and the dad, Jack and Jennifer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
And we are really excited this morning because we have a very special guest who's going to bring to us a new topic, a really new, exciting topic. And we have with us today, Michelle Seiler Tucker. She is an entrepreneur, an author, and a business broker. So good morning to you, Michelle.
Good morning. How are you?
We are doing so great. So again, thank you very much for taking some time out of your schedule to join us on our podcast. I know we were talking a little bit before we started and already starting to talk about some great things here. So let's just jump right into it. Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about what drove you to be an entrepreneur?
So, I really don't know what drove me. I just know as a little girl, I wasn't your typical little girl. I didn't play with toys. I didn't play with dolls. I thought it was a colossal waste of time. So I would walk around with a notebook and a pen, and I would walk up to strangers at the grocery store, strangers in the bank, strangers everywhere, and just start asking them a million questions. And I always knew, though, that I wanted to own my own businesses. And so from a very young age, I did own many different businesses. And then I kind of got stuck working for corporate America. Xerox recruited me. So Xerox recruited me from one of their competitors from OSE, and they recruited me because they couldn't beat me. They would come in with a team of suits, like 6 Xerox men all in suits, coffee and donuts. And then it would just be me with no coffee, no donuts, but I would always win. And so it was so funny because one of the gentlemen that was on that team kept telling my husband, I don't know. How can we beat her? And my husband goes, well, hire her. So anyway, they did. They hired me. They had a team of lawyers that worked around my non-compete. And within 6 months at Xerox, my nickname had become the closer. So every time somebody couldn't close a deal, they would bring me in and say, Michelle can close it. She can't do it. Nobody can. And then my supervisor came to me within 6 months and said, Michelle, there's a regional vice president position opening, a lot more pay, and but it's over 100 salespeople. And she said, I think you should try out for it. She said, you're not going to get it because you've only been here for 6 months, and Xerox only promote you if you've been here 2 years or more. So she said, and plus you're interviewing and competing against the people who have been here for years and years and years. And I'm like, well, why would I ever, interview for something I'm never going to get? And she said, because of the experience, you'll learn so much going through this 3-month training, interview process that it will be worth it to you. So I said, okay. So I threw my name in the hat, and she was right. It was a 3-month grueling process. Where we had to do Q&As with all the high-level executives. We had to do presentations, demonstrations, etc. So anyway, I ended up going through that, and I did get it. Even after they said I never would, so I guess I truly am the closer. But I got it, and then I hated it. And the reason I hated it is because I like leadership. I like management. Most entrepreneurs are not good at management. But I don't like it in corporate America because in corporate America, you're just having meetings to schedule more meetings, to schedule follow-up meetings, to talk about the meetings you had, and you're not really solving problems. You're not getting anything done. So I ended up leaving Xerox shortly after that. And, I always tell business owners, if you have a closer on your team, Jack, I know you probably have financial advisors that work under you. You never want to promote your closer. You want to keep your closer right where you got them. Right. Anyway, so I ended up leaving Xerox, went into franchise sales, franchise development, franchise consulting. Ended up doing that for years, became a partner with a couple of different franchisors. And then I felt like I kept saying, no, no, no. And I always, I believe in law of attraction. I believe in the universe. And I was like, oh, why am I keep saying no, no, no? It's because buyers didn't want to buy a franchise. They wanted to buy a business. So I said, I should be saying yes, yes, yes. And because of that reason and that reason alone is why I started my mergers and acquisitions practice. So I've owned many different businesses in many different verticals because I learned very quickly that what Steve Forbes says is true. 8 out of 10 businesses don't sell. 80% of businesses don't sell. So I said, gosh, if I don't learn to fix these businesses, grow these businesses, put them on a build to sell plan, I'm going to starve to death. So that's when I started buying businesses and flipping them, partnering with business owners, investing my money, my expertise, resources, and put them on that build to sell plan. So I really specialize in buying, selling, fixing, growing businesses. I am an M&A, mergers and acquisitions. I noticed you mentioned business broker earlier. Business brokers sell pizzerias and coffee shops and dry cleaners. There is a big difference between a mergers and acquisitions advisor, because I'm an M&A master intermediary, and a business broker. And really, people need to understand that, because if you have a $50 million company, you don't want to go to a business broker to sell your business. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so we've sold over 1,000 businesses, done over 1,000, thousands of valuations. And on average, we obtain a 24% higher selling price for our clients. And I have about 98% closing ratio, not my team, trying to get them up to that, but I have about a 98% closing ratio. So I close 98% of all offers. All right. And that's me. That's my story.
Wow. One of the things we do, Michelle, is we record what we call nuggets of gold. Like every guest gives us some nuggets. I ran out of room writing. You threw so many nuggets out there in that 2 or 3 minutes. But one of the things that I really like what you said about the difference between entrepreneurs and people who are leadership in companies, and you're right on, and that's the meetings upon meetings upon meetings upon meetings. They have a meeting to figure out just when they're going to have the next meeting, and there's very little accountability. There's very little timeline set on getting anything done. I could not operate, and certainly in my business, one of the things I'm very cautious of is doing that, is even creating that in my own business, that we want to get things done. So you're right on when it comes to the difference. I think, because you look familiar when you got on the podcast, and I think I remember you coming up to me as a little girl and asking me some silly questions. I think I remember that, but I don't think you were ever in New Jersey, were you?
I actually have been in New Jersey. I have done training classes in New Jersey to teach individuals how to become. Though. Not as a little girl, no. Okay, definitely not as a little girl.
Must have been somebody else then. So that's awesome. That's awesome that you kind of just your personality. So when you think of entrepreneurship and people who are thinking of entrepreneurship, again, you're coming at things that from a different perspective. A lot of the entrepreneurs we interview are people who are trying to grow a business ultimately to make money and to support their family, have some financial freedom with their time, those kind of things. But there is a growing number of people out there. I call them almost like serial entrepreneurs, that they thrive in starting something, growing it, selling it for a lot of money, and then repeat the process. So for those kind of people, and, so for example, Jennifer, who has her own hair studio, and say that she was looking to do that, which she is, she's very ambitious. What would be some things that she would be needing to asking herself now, 4 or 5 years in the business to sell it for 20 or 30 million?
So you heard me give a statistic earlier that 80% of businesses don't sell. And that's according to Steve Forbes. According to M&A Source, 90% don't sell. I'm going to go with Steve Forbes since he endorsed my book, Exit Rich.
Yeah.
So, and the number one reason, there's many, many, many reasons why businesses don't sell, but the number one reason is because business owners never think about selling until they have to, due to an internal or external catastrophic event occurring. Internal could be health issues, partner dispute, divorce, death, business doing terribly. External is this pandemic we're in.
Right.
So when you try to sell during a catastrophic event, your business is typically trending downward and doing terribly. It's the worst time to sell your business because you're never going to maximize value. Business owners are so busy working in their business, not on their business, that they really never think about their end game. Right. And that's the biggest mistake that business owners make, is they never plan their exit strategy. And I will say that's pretty much all business owners. Now, the serial entrepreneurs that recreate, they're a little bit better about planning their exit strategy. But I will tell you 98, 99% of business owners, probably 100% of clients that I've worked with have never even thought about their business. I mean, I had a sweet little old lady in her 70s call me not too long ago to sell her husband's business because he dropped dead from a heart attack and left her with a mountain of debt. And she said, honey, can you sell this business? So I started asking her questions, and he had no people, he had no employees, he had no processes. Everything was in his head. When the owner died, the business died. It's not sellable. So you don't want to wait till you get to that point. You want to build your business to sell it, because even if you don't sell it, at least you'll have a business that's sustainable that you can scale. And when you are ready, because, you know, life doesn't stay still and things happen, right? Nothing stays the same. And I always say you're either growing or dying. So you want to build that sustainable asset so you actually have something to sell. That's what's happening to most business owners, is by the time they're like tired, they're burned out, they can't do it anymore. Had a dental practice that came to me the other day. One dentist, been in business 45 years, 3 dental hygienists. He wants to sell. I said, the only way you're going to sell is if we tied this price to your staying on for 2 to 3 years. He goes, honey, I'm not staying on. I said, well, then you're not selling, because when your patients leave, you leave. You can't wait till you're burned out. So I call this, Jack, what I call the STGPS exit model. And I'd like to walk y'all through that real quick if you're okay with it.
Yes,
Sure.
This is what every business owner should be doing from the beginning. So Jennifer, what you should be doing. So number one, when y'all want to drive somewhere, what do? You plug in you go to Google Maps and you plug in your destination. You know where you're driving, right? If you don't know where you're driving, you're going to drive around in circles and end up nowhere. And that's what happens to business owners. Business owners don't plan to fail. They fail to plan, and they don't have a destination. So they're driving around in circles or driving up and down the financial hills to end up nowhere, to end up broke. So you want to plug in your destination, pick a number. And for Jack, you know, there's 5 different ways to exit your business. You might be transferring your business over to Stacy. I'm not sure. But, you know, it used to be back in the golden days that businesses were handed from generation to generation to generation. Not anymore. Most of the time, kids don't want your business. They want to go out there and, you know, create their own masterpiece, create their own footprints. So number one is your destination. Determine what is your end game? What is your desired sales price? What do you want to sell your business for? And pick a number. And this is typically the hardest part for business owners, because they get stuck on a number. Don't get stuck on a number. Just say, hey, I want to sell my business for, let's say, $5 million. Okay, let's just pick a number, $5 million. Now, what does the GPS exit model need to know? It needs to know what your current location is.
Right.
What's your current, where are you starting from? What's your current valuation? Now, this is shocking. We go to the doctor once a year to get an annual checkup to make sure our heart's still ticking, we're still kicking, right?
Right.
We drive a car to the shop to make sure their car's in good shape. But do we ever get an annual business valuation checkup? Nope. Most business owners never, ever get a business valuation. I was talking to a business owner the other day, been in business 50 years, never had his business evaluated. You need to get your business evaluated every single year, because there are events that increase your valuation and there are events that decrease your valuation. So you have to get an evaluation once a year. So let's say you want to sell for $5 million, and let's say you're currently worth $1 million. Now, what do you need to do? You need to know your time frame.
Right.
Okay. So if you want to sell for $5 million and you're worth $1 million, how many years? Let's say you want to do it in 10 years. Okay. So you have what I call a start of a plan. Now you need to reverse engineer it and determine, well, who's my buyers going to be? And notice I said buyers, not buyer. I have clients that call me all the time and say, Michelle, I already have the buyer. I just need you to represent me with this one buyer. And I'm like, I won't do it, because it's going to be a colossal waste of our time. Something's going to happen in due diligence, and this buyer is going to back out. And then you have no backup buyers. You can't put all your eggs in one buyer's basket. Plus, not only that, how can I maximize value? How can I get you 20 to 40% more than the appraised value of your business if I have one buyer? I can't. Okay. So there's 5 types of buyers. Y'all need to know there's 5 types of buyers. 90% of buyers are first-time buyers. They buy small businesses. They buy the pizzerias and the coffee shops and the dry cleaners from business brokers. Then you have the turnaround specialists that buy distressed assets. You have PEGs, private equity groups. Private equity groups buy based on platform and add-ons. And then you have strategics and competitors. Strategics and competitors typically they're buying synergies, so they're most likely to pay the highest multiple. And then you have serial entrepreneurs. Serial entrepreneurs are industry agnostic. They chase cash flow. So you have to ask yourself, what is the right buyer to buy my business? And then you have to know, what are the numbers? If I want to sell for $5 million, you have to reverse engineer it and go, okay, where's the top line got to be? Gross profit margin. Most importantly, where does the EBITDA have to end up? EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. To sell for $5 million, you have to have an EBITDA of at least $1 million with synergies. Then you need to know, well, what are the characteristics? What are the synergies that buyers are willing to outbid and pay more money for? And then the very last step in a GPS exit model is your why. Why do you want to sell your business for $5 million? If it was easy, everybody would be selling a business for $5 million, right?
Right.
It's not easy. You got to weather the financial storms. You got to weather all the catastrophic events that occur. So your why has to be strong enough to keep you in the game. Now, this plan sounds simple, right?
Very simple.
Yeah. Right now it sounds simple. Yeah.
Well, you can call me up with pretty much any company and tell me what your end game is. And I'll tell you exactly where your numbers need to be and who your buyers are and what the synergies you have to build will be. For pretty much every industry, I can do that. Because Jack, you said it earlier, I think when we were talking, that business is business, whether it's financial advisory business or hair salon or M&A practice, the principles are the same, and that's why we work with our clients to build their business on a solid foundation, because most business owners, they chase the client. They go after sales, which is good. You got to have clients or you won't be in business. But guess what? If you don't build a solid infrastructure, you won't stay in business.
For a business to be thinking this, to work with someone like you, I mean, what is there any too small to start working with someone like you?
Actually, if you would have asked me that a few months ago, I would have told you that, yeah, businesses are too small at this level. But we're actually starting a mentor program where we're putting business owners in this funnel that we're building to help business owners plan from day one of buying or starting a business. So it doesn't matter the size of their business. It doesn't matter because the principles are the same. So we're actually starting this funnel to get business owners in this system so they don't wind up a statistic of 80%. And then let me give you another statistic. So here's another statistic. When I wrote my first book in 2013 called Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, I did the research and learned that 95% of all startups will go out of business, right?
Right.
Jennifer, how long have you had your salon?
Almost 5 years.
Okay. So when I wrote Exit Rich in 2019, 2020, I did the exact same research and learned that the business landscape has flip-flopped, completely flip-flopped. So now startups, only 30% of startups will go out of business. You heard me, 30%. And that's out of 1 to 5 years. But listen to this. Out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer, 70% of them will go out of business. 70. You see how it's completely flipped off. So it used to be that if you've been in business past 5 years,
Right.
you're goaded. So Jennifer, you don't have to worry about the startup phase. You better worry about the next phase.
Right.
And the reason for that, because everybody's like, well, Michelle, why is that?
Right.
You hear about the big, public companies all the time. You hear about Toys R Us, been in business 75 years, goes out of business. Kmart, Steinmart, Pier 1, Godiva Chocolate closing down 1,500 locations. GNC closing down 900 locations. I could go on and on and on. But you're not hearing about the private companies on every street corner, in every street, in every town, in every state across our great nation. These business owners are exiting poor, not rich. They're having to sell for pennies on the dollar. They're closing their businesses, or even worse, filing bankruptcy. And the number one reason for that is because they stopped doing what I call AIM. AIM, AIM, is always innovate and market. Always innovate and market. You're either growing or you're dying. There's no in between. And even for you, Jennifer, you're going to have to continue to innovate. You have to ask your clients, what do you need? What do you want? How can I make it easier for you to do business with us? Because the companies that make it easiest for the consumer to purchase their products and services is the company that's winning. Amazon is winning because Amazon makes it so easy for you to buy the products. You can practically buy a horse
Right.
and have it delivered in 2 days to your house.
And then return it to Kohl's if you don't need it.
Exactly.
You know what I read the other day?
What?
This was before my time, and talking about businesses that are going out. And you could actually buy a pony through a Sears and Roebuck catalog back in the day. Now, that was before my time, but so see how things come back around?
See, things
know,
come back
Amazon-
around, absolutely. But the problem is that business owners become complacent
Yeah.
and they're married to the way they've always done things and they don't want to change. People don't
Well, why
want
do
to
you
change,
think-
especially my baby boomers that have had their business for 15, 20, 30 years. They're like, honey, I'm not changing. I
Right.
had a welding distribution company we were selling. They didn't even have computers. Everything is on Rolodex. Everything's on paper. Their inventory system's on paper. And I'm like, heaven forbid if a fire happens
Right.
here. You
Yeah.
know, but you got to innovate. The reason businesses are going out of business is because they're not innovating. The reason that startups are not going out of business is because they are innovating.
Dempsey Weiss and Associates is a multi-line insurance agency successfully meeting the insurance and financial needs of the landscaping, business contractor, and agricultural community in southern New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania since 1989. To learn more, visit us at www.dempseyweiss.com.
What's the main cause for that, I'll say paradigm shift? I don't know if that's the word you used, of 70% of businesses over 10 years going out of business.
Because they
What-
stopped innovating. They stopped doing things differently, and consumers' habits have changed. Consumers don't purchase products and services the way they used to. Plus, you have to look at who's the market. Is it baby boomers? Is it Gen X or is it millennials? Millennials do not do things the way baby boomers do. They do not purchase stuff the way baby boomers do, right? What's important to millennials is completely different than what's important to baby boomers. You know, it's even like the housing market. I mean, a lot of millennials are still living at home with their parents. Our millennials would prefer to rent than own a home. They want to keep their money for experiences. Am I right, Jennifer?
Absolutely.
So you got to look at the generational gaps and how consumers purchase products and services. But it's all about innovation. It's like Blockbuster. Blockbuster sold Netflix. Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix. They sat back fat and happy and did nothing. And now they're out of business. Toys R Us didn't change anything in 75 years. You can't stay in business and not innovate. You know, Steve Jobs came back to Apple after being fired from Apple, and they all were in the computer business at the time. Steve Jobs' innovation is what bought us the iPhone, the iPad, the iPods, the
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
So you got to innovate. If you don't innovate, like I say, you're either growing or dying.
Sounds familiar.
Now, there's some industries that don't require as much innovation, like maybe your industry, Jack, the financial wealth management industry. Maybe doesn't innovate as much, but there are entrepreneurs in that industry that are innovating like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely
Innovation is key to success.
right. I mean, in that business, I mean, we're seeing it all around us. I mean, you just recently,
Absolutely.
you're seeing, the different platforms now that people can invest in, that's really shaking up the market. It's shaking up how we do planning, how people invest. And yeah, talk
because the way
about it all
millennials invest is not the same way baby boomers invest or Generation X invest.
right. That's exactly right.
Got to innovate.
You have to innovate. Yeah, that's good. In your book, Michelle, you talked about the 6 Ps. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So the 6 Ps is the infrastructure you have to have. And I don't care if it's a financial advisory, wealth management business, a hair salon, a doctor's office, all businesses have to build an infrastructure on what I call the 6 Ps. The first P, probably one of the most important Ps, is people. You don't build a business, you build people, and people build a business. The second reason that businesses are not sellable, number one, is business owners don't plan for their exit. Number two is business owners are the business. The business owners have created what I call a glorified job in which they go to work at every day, rather than a business that actually works for them. You take the owner out of that business, there is no business. Remember the sweet little lady whose husband died? The business died with him. The dentist that wants to sell, he can't sell because the minute he leaves, the patients leave. Entrepreneurs make a huge mistake of trying to do everything themselves. They always, a lot of entrepreneurs are control freaks. So like, if I want it done right, I got to do it myself. Well, that can't be further from the truth. Entrepreneurs are not good at everything. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. Entrepreneurs need to focus on their strengths, hire their weaknesses. You got to have the right people in the right seats. And then you have to ask the who question, Jack. Who opens the door? Who deals with clients? Who does scheduling? Who does marketing? Who does legal? Who does accounting? Who does manufacturing, transportation, logistics, environmental? The list goes on and on. The clue here is that you should never be next to the who. So each of you should write down your list of the who's in your company. Jennifer, you should do this. Your name is going to be next to some of the who's, but I'll tell you, Jennifer, if you're a stylist and 60 or 70% of the revenue comes from you, you'll have a hard time selling your business. So you want to create a business that works without you. So people is number one. Number two is product. This is where innovation comes in. So you have to ask yourself, is your product, your services on the way up or on the way out? Do you have a Blockbuster that's failing, or do you have an Amazon and you're at the top of your game? And so if you have an Amazon, great. If you have a Blockbuster, that doesn't mean that you just pack up and go home. That means you got to get creative. That means you got to align yourself with an expert. Because a lot of times, I always say when you're in the middle of your business, you're in the middle of the chaos, it's foggy, right?
Yeah.
When you're in the middle of your fog, it's foggy. It's hard to see things clearly. So a lot of times you need an outsider's perspective. And I always tell my clients, ask yourself these 3 questions. Amazon did this back in the 90s. They asked themselves, what business are we in? And they said, we're in the book selling business. We sell books. Then they asked themselves, what do we do really well, better than anybody else? And they said, better than anybody else? We do fulfillment better than anybody else. So next obvious question, the most important question is, what business should we be in? Should. And they said, we should be in a fulfillment business. As simple as it sounds, those 3 questions transformed Amazon from a small bookseller to a multi-billion-dollar worldwide conglomerate that they are today. And everybody can do this in their business. I don't care if it's wealth management or if it's hair salon. You know, Jennifer, you should be asking yourself, what's my USP? What's my unique selling proposition? What makes me different? And then you also want to make sure you have congruent revenue streams. The reason why so many businesses are failing because of this pandemic right now is because all of their eggs are in one basket. You know, like the restaurant industry, they have one restaurant. They have no other revenue streams. You know, they can have an online store that sells products with their secret recipes in there, right? And still make money. So you cannot have one revenue stream. That you can't. That's a kiss of death. The other reason why restaurants are failing is because they have 1 to 3 months of working capital. You have to have multiple congruent revenue streams, and you have to have at least 1 year of working capital.
So Michelle, before you, just define congruent, because again, I think that's an important component.
So, okay, so
Congruent.
Jennifer is in hair salon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You have a hair salon. So congruent for you would mean you don't go and start a plumbing company. That's not congruent to hair, is it?
Right. No.
It's the only example I could think of. But what you could do is have space to have a massage therapist,
Right.
to have an esthetician, to do waxing, to maybe do pedicures, manicures. You could have congruent revenue streams so you're not just relying upon hair,
Right.
right? You could have certain products that maybe you came up with, some unique formulas that you have a storefront, an internet storefront, website storefront.
Right.
Congruent. It's congruent because it's all synergistic. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we've been talking about. And actually she's just doing basically an online jewelry. So still part of the beauty industry.
Still part of the beauty industry. Yeah, exactly. But if you went out and said, I'm going to start flipping real estate, flipping real estate might be good, right? You know, it might be good, but it's completely outside of your wheelhouse.
Right.
You know, something you got to learn, and it's not synergistic to what you're doing now. You want to have congruent revenue streams that don't take all your time away from you.
Right.
Yeah, I told
Flipping
you,
real estate is going to take all of your time away from you. What'd you say, Jack?
I said, because she came to me. She said, Dad, I think I'm going to get into real estate. I said, you're not going to get into real estate. That's completely different.
Here's how you get into real estate. I'll tell you how to get into real estate. You get into real estate by taking money and investing it into one of those real estate, what do you call those?
Investment trust.
Yeah, that, or there's a gentleman that has a real estate portfolio that works with a lot of doctors and lawyers to invest money. And then he takes that money, he goes and buys 5 to 10 homes. And then he goes and sells them to the market and he seller finances it. So he's really helping people who've never owned a home before own a home for the very first time ever. And then that investor's getting their money back. That's how you invest in real estate. But if you try to do it yourself, it's going to completely take you away from what you're doing now, and something's going to give. Like, I'm congruent because everything all of my revenue centers are other businesses. I'm in different verticals, but it's all business. And the principles are the same, even if the industry is different. So I'm not going out and doing real estate. I tried that. My husband dragged me to a Robert Kiyosaki class and said, let's do real estate. And then we're sitting there and he goes, well, you can do this, Michelle, you can do this, you can do this. I'm like, what are you going to do? And he goes, I'm going to go to the courthouse and get the records. I said, that's all you're going to do? Because yes, I said, I'm out. And that was a $25,000 investment to learn how to do real estate. I went to one class and said, I'm out, because it takes you away from what you're doing, what your core competencies are. You follow me?
Yeah.
But you find something else that you can invest in and still be a piece of real estate without you spending your time, energy, and efforts and having to learn something all over again.
Right.
That's what I mean by congruent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's
You're
perfect.
welcome.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Oh, so
We're
the
gonna-
next P, the third P
Yeah.
is processes. So processes are kind of like exit strategy. Business owners don't think about them until they have to, because something bad happened in their business. So processes should be designed from the beginning of buying or starting a business. But a lot of business owners don't even think about it. We have a manufacturing business that we're selling, and an employee got hurt on the manufacturing floor. It's a catastrophic event. So there's going to be lots of lawsuits, and it probably will put them out of business. It will probably bankrupt them. And you know what the owner said to me the other day? He said, Michelle, we need a process for health and safety in this department. I'm like, really? I think you needed that beforehand.
all right.
It's a little late for that now. So you got to start your processes from the beginning. Have you ever watched the movie The Founder, based upon the McDonald's story and Ray Kroc?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. One of the best movies ever is The Founder. So you need to design your processes with what I call the customer experience in mind. If you remember correctly in the movie, not Ray Kroc, but the McDonald brothers said, we want to create a fast food restaurant around this client experience. We want our clients to experience great tasting food that's hot and that's fast, right? 2 minutes or less. That was their experience. Remember, they took all the employees out to the tennis court. They drew with chalk on the tennis court, and everybody practiced until they finally got it right, until they finally figured out who's going to take the order, who's going to toast the buns, who's going to cook the burger, put the 2 pickles on the bun and give it to the client 2 minutes or less. Those processes were designed to create happy clients. You can eat at a McDonald's anywhere in the world and get the same experience. You have to design your processes with the customer experience in mind. Have you ever done business with a company and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst customer service, the worst processes ever? I never want to do business with them again?
Of course.
Surely you've had those experiences. I have them all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because the processes are designed based upon their own agenda, not based upon the customer's experience. Like if you ever call a bank, you got to push like 12 different buttons to get a person.
Right.
And then you got to tell your story with the bank about 5 different times before you get the right person, before there's some kind of resolve. Chiropractors are notorious for this. Chiropractors are like, okay, my hours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 12. And then we're off 12 to 3. And we come back at 3 to 5. And Tuesdays is this and Thursdays is this. Is that process designed with the customer experience? No, because most people work during the day.
Right.
It's designed for their own agenda. So processes must be designed with the customer experience in mind. If you don't create happy clients, your competitors will. They must be productive, efficient, well documented. Here's where most businesses mess up. McDonald's has duplicatable processes. They can lose somebody within an hour, has somebody in that position trained because of the processes. But you have to have policy and procedure manuals, SOP checklists, and you have to make sure your key management has non-competes You have employee handbooks and things of that nature. This is what buyers look at. They're going to walk in your business and they're going to ask for your policy and procedure manuals. They're going to ask to see the employee contracts. They're going to ask to see the non-competes. Okay. That's processes. Any question on that one?
No, that's great. That is great.
Proprietary. So proprietary is the highest value driver. So let me explain how businesses are valued like really quickly. Businesses are under $1 million in EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. Under $1 million in EBITDA will typically trade between 1 to 3, maybe 3.5, maybe 4 max. SBA won't approve anything over 4 multiple. Businesses with over $1 million in EBITDA will go for over 5 multiple. But businesses that have synergies in place, proprietary assets, can trade at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The only companies that trade for multiple of gross revenues are SaaS companies. So, number 4 is proprietary. There's 6 pillars to proprietary. These are your proprietary assets. These are your synergies that you have to build in your company in which to drive a higher value. Number 1 is branding. The more well-branded your business is, the more I can sell your company for, as long as your brand is relevant in the mind of the consumer. Is anybody paying any money for Blockbuster?
No.
No.
Nope.
So the largest, most valuable brand in the world is
Apple?
Apple. Yay, Jack, you're right on it. Are you listening to my other podcast? So
No,
Apple.
Their stocks treated me very well over the years. Let me put it that way.
Apple's worth $249 billion. Just the brand. That's not EBITDA. That's not assets, inventory, real estate, accounts receivables, anything else. That's just the brand. So here's something really important. Trademarks are also valuable, but they need to be federal trademarks. One of the biggest mistakes that business owners make is they start their business and they go get a state trademark. So Jennifer, you have a hair salon in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Do you have a state trademark on your company name? You better. You have a state trademark. You probably don't have a federal trademark. So businesses can be in business, and I've seen this happen with clients, many clients, and all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter in the mail, and I have to stop using that company name because somebody else owns the federal trademark.
Oh.
Oh.
Same thing with your podcast name. Same thing with anything that's unique to you. Now, most people don't go out and trademark a title of a book because you can't, but I did get Exit Rich federally trademarked. I got the ST6Ps. I got the ST GPS exit model. So if you're going to build your brand and you plan on building your business, you need to get that federal trademark. Otherwise, you'll hire an attorney, you'll spend a lot of money, and you'll probably lose. And then you have to close, you have to stop using that name. You have to start all over. The hardest thing in business is building that brand, right? It's the hardest thing. So the other thing is patents are very, very valuable. Do y'all watch Shark Tank?
No.
Every single investor always asks every single inventor the same question. Do you have a patent on that? Do you have a patent pending? Do you have utility patents? So patents are huge. Contracts, manufacturing contracts, distribution contracts, franchisor contracts that has franchisees, client contracts. All of these contracts are extremely valuable, especially client contracts, especially if you have recurring revenue or a subscription model. Here's a caveat with contracts. 99.9% of all sales are asset sales, not stock sales. So if your buyer doesn't agree to do a stock sale or your clients don't agree to consent to transfer, then your deal will fall apart. So put the 2-sentence transferability clause in the beginning. Databases are another big one. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp, and WhatsApp was hemorrhaging money. Hemorrhaging. But guess what synergy they had? They had 1 billion users. So Facebook knew they could monetize and they could ROI on that investment. Celebrity endorsements are huge. You know, Jennifer, if you come out with something that's really unique and you get Oprah, we have a client that has Oprah. And competitors or strategics will pay a lot of money for that because everybody else wants their products in front of Oprah, right? So these are synergies that we identify when we're doing evaluations. Celebrity endorsements are big. And the reason celebrity radio endorsements, celebrity TV endorsements are big is because they can only endorse one vertical at a time. Only one skincare, only one makeup line, only one diet plan. Because if they do more than that, they lose credibility, right?
Right.
Like Jennifer Aniston, you only see her face on Aveeno. You don't see it on any other product because she will lose credibility.
Right.
E-commerce stuff. We sell a lot of e-commerce businesses. So whenever you can get those top positions on Amazon, Wayfair, Etsy, that's huge. So when we do evaluations, one of the biggest things we look for is these synergies. And then we identify which buyers are willing to pay more. We create a bidding war. We also look at who can take advantage of economies of scale and who can cut overhead. Like we're selling a manufacturing plant that has one distribution center. We have a manufacturing buyer that has distribution all over the United States. They can cut this one distribution center, which is about $3 million, increasing their EBITDA from day one. Make sense?
Yeah.
So so real quick, Michelle, so on the proprietary P, what we're saying is that, those synergies can take, whatever EBITDA that business has to north of 5 times.
Yeah.
5 times their EBITDA. Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I mean, we're looking at selling a company right now for about 10 times EBITDA because they have a celebrity endorsement. Because it's all about creating a bidding war. It's all about creating that bidding war. All right. So the 5th P is patrons. Patrons is your client base. Typically, and Jennifer, you don't really have to worry about this too much in your business. What you have to worry about is what stylist has what percentage of the revenue.
Right.
So if it's you that has the highest revenue and something happens to you, you're in trouble. If you have a stylist that has 80% of the revenue and you lose that stylist, you're in big trouble.
Right.
So it's not just about clients for you. It's about stylists for you.
Right.
Does that make sense? Because when that stylist leaves, the clients leave. So most businesses follow the 80-20 rule where 80% of the revenue comes from 20% of their clients. We were once selling a marketing advertising agency. They have 5 clients. But the reason they have 5 clients, we're selling them in the $10 million range, is because they cater to casinos. So they have 5 of the largest casinos. But guess what? They lost 2 when we were selling them. The revenues and EBITDA dropped in half. They weren't sellable anymore. We actually merged them with another media company. So you want client diversification, not client concentration. Now, just because you have client concentration doesn't mean we can't sell your business. I mean, we had an oil manufacturing business that we sold. We appraised it for $9.8 million. And they had customer concentration with BP. They had 65% of their revenue tied up with the BP contract. We had 550 buyers. We narrowed that down and we got 12 letter of intents. But they were all concerned about customer concentration. So they wanted to attach an earnout to mitigate their risk. But then we found a strategic buyer that had some of our products and services and been trying to get in BP for years and could never get their feet in the door. So they said, this is our way. This is, our opening to get our products and services in the BP. So they paid $15 million for 70% of the company, which was 126% more than what the business was appraised for.
Wow.
This is how we're able to create these bidding wars. So the last P, the most important P to all entrepreneurs, is profit. But the reason I always put profits last is because lack of profits are never the problem. If you're not making money, it's because you're not functioning on the other 5 Ps. I have clients that come and tell me all the time, Michelle, I have a profit problem. I'm like, no, you have a client problem. You have a people problem. You don't have the right people. Or no, you have a process problem. Because if your processes are not efficient and productive, you can lose a lot of money. So profits are never the problem. Lack of profits are never the problem. It's always a symptom.
Woo!
Incredibly.
Well, thank you.
Well, I gotta go to
Yeah.
work.
So,
What's that?
Let me
so
back-
good.
What'd you say, Jennifer?
But I gotta go to work. I have a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So you can see how the infrastructure is really the same in every industry, right?
Right.
Yes.
In
Oh,
every industry, the infrastructure is the same.
yeah.
And there's a lot of proprietary that you can build in any industry. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm in wealth management. Wait, what can I build that's proprietary? Or I have a hair salon. There's so many things you can do.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So many different things you can do.
All right. So please tell us where we can find your book so we can learn more.
So the book is Exit Rich. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Exit Rich. So my co-author is Sharon Lecter. So two strong, powerful women wrote Exit Rich. That would be me and Sharon Lecter. And Sharon Lecter wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. We talked a little bit about real estate. Sharon Lecter has been a New York Times bestselling author 5 times. She's a CPA, a financial literacy expert, and she is the advisor to many different presidents. Steve Forbes has endorsed Exit Rich, and Kevin Harrington, the original Shark on Shark Tank, wrote the foreword. So Exit Rich comes out officially in June, but you can go to exitrichbook.com now for $24.79. You can buy Exit Rich. You can read it today because we will email you the digital download within minutes of ordering it. We will send a hardcover to your doorstep for anyone that lives in the United States. Outside of the United States, there's extra shipping, of course. Plus, we'll give you a lifetime membership into the Exit Rich Book Club. There you will find video training of me doing deep dives in these different techniques and strategies. Plus, you will get the documents to run your business, documents to sell your business. So clients come to me all the time and like, Michelle, what's a non-compete look like? What's the employee handbook look like? What's the original organizational chart look like? A PP manual? What's a sample LOI? So we have all of that. We have your non-competes. We have the organizational chart, the PP manual. We have sample letter of intents, purchase agreements, due diligence checklist, and closing documents. All these documents are worth over $30,000 if you went to your attorney to recreate. So they're there not just for review, but for your download. So for $24.79, you're getting the book, Exit Rich, which is a gold mine for entrepreneurs, plus, and that's what Steve Forbes says, a gold mine for entrepreneurs, plus all the documents to run and sell your business, plus a 30-day membership into the Exit Rich Book Club, which is an entrepreneur mastermind, where we really help entrepreneurs build a sustainable, scalable, and when they're ready, sellable business.
Wow.
You know what's amazing about doing things like this, Michelle, is you have some expectations going into this podcast of kind of what kind of information will be shared, and I'm always surprised by what I actually walk away with, because it's always so much more. And I'm sitting here thinking about the podcast is about entrepreneurs, but again, I'm doing this for my business for 35 years, and I have, I can't even count how many clients that need this, who have been in business for years, that are facing exactly what you're talking about. They have no succession, they have no exit plan, and the world's changing all around them.
Yeah.
And so, as we went into this thinking about entrepreneurs, startup, but boy, I tell you, I've just been building a list in my mind and on paper as you're talking. Clients have been in business for, 25, 30, 35 years that don't know where they're going with their business, and they're
right.
scratching their head. And so there's so much more here than just for people thinking about being entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. So I think you should buy a book for all of your clients.
Well, you know what? It would be done. That's done.
So for all of your clients.
Down, whoever, because again, it would be the best investment I could give to, because we're always trying to provide value to our clients and give them value. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
24,
and they will love you for it.
That's right. Exactly. So
so $24.79. And we can ship all the books to your doorstep, or we can ship them to your individual clients.
Well, we'll figure that out, but we're going to do that, because that is a tremendous idea.
Yeah.
So everyone can also text Michelle to 888-526-5750. And when you text Michelle to 888-526-5750, all my social media pops up. So you can follow me on social media, connect with me on LinkedIn, plus my websites. My main website is seilertucker.com.
So Stacy and Jen, do you see what just happened? She's a 90% closer. She got me like that, man. She closed on me buying books. So not just one, now, So
if she wasn't going to close you, I was going to close you. Say, Jack, I know some clients that need this, so we'll get with you. Well, I'll make sure that we get that.
Yeah, so we'll follow up after the show and talk about how to facilitate that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
That's
good
great
stuff. Fantastic.
Well,
Awesome.
Michelle, thank you so much. So much good information here. Very, very powerful. And, we're very, very grateful that you're able to take some time and really talk about the subject of, what is the exit plan, and let's not exit the plan poor, let's exit it rich. That's definitely the end game. So again,
and let's innovate and market so we don't become in a 70% statistic. And next time I talk to you, I want to hear about Jennifer's unique selling proposition, what she's coming up with.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
No real estate, Jen.
yeah. Well, thank you to all of our listeners today. We hope that you have found this message to be just as powerful as we have. You can feel free to email us at twodaughtersanddairdad@gmail.com if you have any questions, any topics that you would like to hear from us about. And until we can be together again, please be kind to each other and be kind to yourselves. Thank you.
We want to thank you for listening today. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave us a positive review. And we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Dempsey Weiss & Associates and J. Faith Hair Studio.